It's neat seeing those graduation pictures, especially you see what they looked like when they were like so small. And if you're like me, I'm thinking, wow, how did they go from here, cuddling a kitten to, now they're here? And we all know how it happens. They just grow up and they get older, and you're thinking, are they ever going to get out of diapers? And yep, sure are. Are they ever going to get out of school? Yeah. And now they're driving, and all the things that go on. It's a celebration, but to me, it's a happy kind of a reflective time as well. You go to the graduation and you see, the pictures and the awards, and you talk to them, the plans for the future, and it's great. And this morning, not just for grads, I'm going to continue on this thing of God's sovereignty. I believe it's one of the most important aspects of the character of God, and especially for grads, but also for older folks too. If we don't have an understanding, life has a way of throwing you off if you're not grounded in this particular aspect of who God is. Yesterday I was at a graduation, and one fellow I was talking with, well, I probably won't be at church tomorrow going to the air show. I go, but I'm talking about God's sovereignty again. He goes, let me get this straight. God's sovereignty. God's in control. I'm not. Deal with it. And I go, well, you could put it like that if you want to, and we understand God is in control, but the question is, how much control is He really in? Because if He's in control and I'm not, well then, how much am I a robot? Well, that's not biblically true. You're not robotic. But then the deal with it. How do I deal with it? And that needs more than God's in control, I'm not. Deal with it. I mean, yeah, you can kind of get there, but there's just more, or you're not going to, what I want to say, deal with it. And so we need to to deal with it in a way that is true to Scripture. Let me put it that way. So, yeah, God is in control. That's what His sovereignty means. And we can do it even a little more than that. We can expand the definition, and that is, He is absolute in authority and unrestricted in His supremacy. And part of this says, when God speaks, not only do we listen, but we listen in order to obey. To know but not to do isn't any difference than not knowing. And so He tells us in order to do. And I don't think we reach this conclusion outside of God's Word, that He is an ultimate control, He is an ultimate authority, He is an ultimate supremacy, because it doesn't seem to be that way. As I said last week, it seems like things are upside down and flying apart, and no one's really at the helm of this ship. No one's steering this. No one knows what's going on up ahead, and so we're in a storm all the time. Even if in God's Word we sometimes ask, if God is sovereign, if He's in control, then why? And you feel like, why? Why does this happen, or why does this not happen? Why does He continue to allow? Why doesn't He just bring the hammer down? See, the newspapers tell us what? They do a good job in reporting what? The newspapers never tell us why, because they don't even know. So it's good to know what, but that's the easy part. You talk to enough folks, and normally you can figure out what. Bartram's, your house caught on fire, right? So we know what happened. We even know how. There was a lightning strike, because you guys have this huge honking antenna out back of your house, because where you live there's a bunch of trees and you want to get ESPN. Is that true? Okay. So it hits the antenna. The antenna is grounded. At least you told me it was. Well, the insurance people come out and they figure out, I got hit by lightning. And so the lightning went and boom, it hits the garage, hits the house. And next thing you know, your house is ablaze. So we know what. But why? And you can kind of, because it's tall, because that's what lightning does. But why your house, not someone else's house? Or why was it that you were even able to get out of that time of day or evening? So all these why things that really remain unanswered. In Christianity, often in churchdom, we want a Bible verse. And we want this certainty, and we don't want the struggle. See, the why often, when there's not a clear-cut answer, the struggle, the tension remains. We don't like that. So we like coming up with stuff that kind of helps us, but it may not be really true. Thinking if we only knew, we long for certainty. It's not easy to go wandering in the land of the unknown. But if only we knew, it would make it easier. It'd make it better. Now we can rest. Now we can move forward. Or at least so we think. God does not make it a habit to answer why questions. Sometimes He does. But we may ask, well, why? Why does God not make it a habit to answer why questions? Well, this morning, hopefully, we'll come to some sort of a partial answer to that. Let me put it that way. So, God is sovereign, absolute in authority, unrestricted in supremacy, and this is also true, can I just say this, when it comes to weather, which causes us to ask all kinds of questions. We had a fairly rainy spring around here. So we were all wondering, when or if are the farmers ever going to be able to get in their fields and do the work and plant? And what crop now can we plant? Is it too late to plant one thing, so we need to plant something else? What's the cutoff date? And how about insurance? And what if it doesn't kick in? And what if we take this huge hit financially? Then what do we do? Find another part-time job? Do we sell the farm? And you know what? To be a farmer, I think, takes great faith. Because you're not in control of the weather. We all know that. And I think there were a lot of people, farmers and non-farmers, like praying that they would have the kind of weather that would allow them to get their work done. Part of it for them, part of it so, it doesn't hit my pocketbook with rising prices when things are scarce. And then there's all this talk about nature and Mother Nature. You hear it all the time. Did you know our very existence comes down to the fact that the sun shines, it rains, and there's 2 inches of topsoil? If not for that, none of us would be here. And we're not in control of the sun shining, the rain, or the topsoil. And so we're a pretty dependent, we're a pretty needy people. But when weather people, or we talk about nature or Mother Nature, there isn't this mother who is in control of nature. You understand that. There is a God creator. That's who we're really talking about. God set all this stuff up. Do you believe that God upholds and governs all things, from galaxies to subatomic particles, from the forces of nature to the movements of nations? Do you believe that? Do you believe that God is involved in politics? Somebody go, it doesn't look like it. Do you believe He's involved and He places those whom He wants in authority in places of authority? You think, well, not at my work He doesn't. It's easy to get to folks, well, it doesn't seem like it. Or did God just set it all up and take a step back to watch it all happen? That's what some folks think. God's like He came to the stadium, He's in the box seats, but He's not on the field. He's not even calling the plays. He's just an observer of what He created. That is a belief system that's called deism. Here, deism is the belief in the existence of a supreme being, specifically a creator who does not intervene in the universe. When we talk about our founding fathers, many of our founding fathers were deists. You talk about Thomas Jefferson, did he believe in God? Yeah, but he was a deist. In others, they were deists. And it comes out sometimes in their writings or how they would do things. But that's what some people think. He set it all up, he took a step back, and now he's more an observer and not so much involved. Or not involved at all. That is unbiblical. That's not what Scripture teaches at all. And so don't wander into deism just because you cannot understand or comprehend sovereignty. God does not take a hands-off approach. He's not a spectator, and He will control and intervene and lead this world. Here's the biblical thought out of Job. Out of the south comes the storm, and out of the north the cold. From the breath of God, ice is made, and the expanse of the waters is frozen. Also with moisture, He loads the thick cloud. He disperses the cloud of His lightning, and it changes direction, turning around by His guidance, that it may do whatever He commands it on the face of the inhabited earth, whether for correction or for His world, or for loving kindness, He causes it to happen. It's not just here. God is control of weather. Now, this past week was a pretty nice weather week. And it was fairly dry. And so we go, thankfully, God answered prayer. Thankfully, farmers got out in the field. Thankfully, maybe they didn't get it all done, but they got a lot more done than they had the previous week. And so we're glad for that. And then we say, isn't God good? But how about the previous weeks? When it was too wet, they couldn't get in the fields, when ice fell from the sky, right, called hail. We were running to put our one boy's car when it started to hail into the church barn. And so he's driving. Well, he may not know how to exactly hit the key punch pad. So I say I'm running. I don't really run. I kind of hobble across the yard. And a couple times these pieces of hail just hit me in the head. And you're thinking, I bet that wasn't the first time that happened, aren't you, huh? And I'm going, that stings. Like, surprise, surprise. That didn't feel very good. But and some of you had, like, I heard of windshields breaking out of cars. I mean, it's some of the biggest hail I've seen in a long time. But often when it hails, often when there is adverse weather, here is not our conclusion. Isn't God good? The fact that the sun shines isn't any more an indicator of God's goodness than rain when the ground's already saturated, or when hail comes down and damages vehicles and crops and trees. But here we say, isn't God good? But we never conclude, isn't God good? Listen, God is good whether the sun shines or the rain falls. He's always good because He's always sovereign. I go, oh my. We maintain God is always good, but maybe think He's not quite so good when that kind of weather hits. God's good, but I have a bit of trouble when my house catches on fire. Not so convinced. And then we saw that in the Midwest this spring, where floods, historic floods, where the water was up to the roofs of houses. Some of these communities, they will never be the same again. Listen, it's nice living here in Huntington, isn't it? I mean, in a lot of ways. We don't really have hurricanes here. We don't really have much, once in a while, a little earth tremor, but not much. And when the rivers flood, we know where it's at. No one builds there, right? It's been doing the same thing for years and years and years and years and years. You just wise up and don't put anything there. that oftentimes, water doesn't come up into our roofs. Maybe it comes into our basement, but our houses aren't being washed down a river. So in one sense, we're kind of high and dry here. It may not be the vacation hotspot for the rest of America, but still, I don't think it is. Have you ever talked to anybody where you go on a vacation? They live out in Colorado, Huntington. Got family? No family. Don't know anybody. Just always wanted to go to Huntington. That's not the talk. But there's something that's almost kind of safe, at least weather-wise, of living here. Beyond that, got to show you this. And this was the result of the tsunami that hit Japan. See, we have our 9/11. Japan has their 3/11. This was March 11th of 2011. And you see that like a big bus on top of the building. There's not a ramp going up to the top of this building. That's not how it got there. I can't imagine water being so high, the current being so strong, the tsunami took the bus, and that's where the bus happened to land. I just happened to be over there in July of that year, and I took this photo myself, and it's a wonder. It looked like someone had dropped another nuclear bomb on part of Japan. And you go, oh my. I remember I was standing at a place, I was trying to find the picture, where I'm like this, and someone had put a mark on a building, and that's where the water had come through. And you go, that's amazing. And then you had about 20,000 people died that day because of the tsunami. And they, well, where is God here? What's God saying here? How can this happen? And since I have relatives over there, I happened to ask I think it was my second cousin, she's like 21. I go, what kind of sense, or really I was asking her what her worldview is. Why do you think this tsunami came through and wiped out about 20,000 people, along with towns and smaller villages near the coast that have not been rebuilt, probably will never be rebuilt? That's been, 8 years ago. They have not recovered. This area will never, can I say, ever be the same again. I said, what sense do you make of that? In this, she thought about, I mean, I go, do you think that some kind of thought about a God? She said this. No. She says, Rick, you don't understand that almost all the people my age are atheists. And it shocked me. Yeah, we don't believe in a God. So maybe it happened just to tell us, don't build there again. Oh. See, you have to do something with catastrophe. It's not okay. Your mind goes somewhere. Of course, the question is, where does your mind go? Or a few weeks ago here on May 27th, closer to home, over across the state line in Salina, Ohio, an I don't know, they keep changing the categories. At least was an F3, maybe an F4 tornado hit Salina, and they had one casualty. It was an 81-year-old man in his home, and the tornado picked up a car and threw it into the house. And he dies. And you go, isn't that a bizarre way? Why did the car go into his house? How come God couldn't have thrown the car into a tree? Or bypassed it altogether? And that's where we want to take a step back. Oh, no. Don't bring God into this. That's just nature. That's the controller of this. I have now become a deist. God set up the weather system. God set up climate, but He's just kind of watching it happen. He's not in control of anything. He is an observer. God is now a spectator in this world. Oh my. The why question. If you're a part of their family and this 81-year-old man was a dad, a grandpa, a good friend, or a neighbor, you may ask, why his house and not mine? There's such a thing that soldiers who come back from battle, we just had D-Day, right? 75th anniversary of D-Day back here on June 6th. One of the greatest wartime events in the history, at least in our recent history. But vets come back from the war with survivor's remorse. And they think, well, why did my buddy get killed? He was right next to me and not me. And some of them wish that it was them. In war, everyone's a casualty. Everyone. Some just didn't happen to die. You think the why question. And we don't have a contentment. We don't have a peace. We're not resting very well there. We just don't know the why about so many of these things. About the weather. How about Hurricane Katrina or any of these things? These hurricanes that hit these little islands down in off the southeast coast of the United States that wipe them out. How about Puerto Rico? Heard about Puerto Rico lately? We don't hear much about it. It has not recovered. It's been a couple years. I don't know. When you don't know why, can I just say this? It doesn't alter God's goodness or His love for human beings, even when you can't reconcile it. Such things are simply beyond our comprehension, but they're true. Here's my question for you this morning. Will you allow yourself to rest in and to trust in a God whom you cannot always understand? Don't strip Him of His power or His love or His foresight. Don't reduce Him to that, because these things are true. Just because I cannot understand doesn't undo His character. He still is. I put it this way: the more I know about God, the more I know I don't know much about God. Conclusion I came to a while back: the more I know about God, the more I know I don't know much about God. And you say, well, that's your job. Now, that doesn't settle things. It kind of works it up. But I'm going to go to one other thing this morning here. I'm going to work it up just a little bit more. This is not going to be like a 30-minute TV show where they present a problem, they solve the problem, at the end you go, okay. Obviously, it's not a sitcom. Some sermons just continue. There's not really much of a resolution. It kind of stirs the stuff. It muddies the waters maybe a bit more. And we don't like it. I know that. I don't either. But to be biblically true, I think it does that sometimes. Here's the second thing. So we have weather. How about accidents? Now, an accident is something that no one saw coming and no one intentionally caused to happen. That's an accident. They happen all the time. Hunting season, there are firearms accidents. They didn't see it coming. They didn't mean to do it. It just happens. Or sometimes even in the home, there's firearm accidents. I remember when we were kids sitting around the dinner table at night, you know what would happen? At least once a week with 4 kids. What would happen? Spill the milk. Never once did I say, you know what? I'm going to create a little drama here. And Mom and Dad seem to be a little bit too happy. So I'm just going to knock my milk glass over everywhere, see what happens. You know, you don't think that. You're a kid. You're reaching for the butter knife. Your arm goes off. You knock the milk over. And the whole place goes up. How come you kids, that whole thing. It was another, well, now, little Ricky, these things happen in life. It's going to be okay. It's like, you get something and clean that. And so that's what happens. I didn't mean to spill the milk. Really, I didn't. Or car accidents. I didn't mean to. I've been in a number of accidents. I've never been badly hurt in a car accident. I'm so thankful for that. But it's never that I went out and think, you know what, today, I want to be in a car accident. No one does that. I didn't see them coming, or they didn't see me coming. I didn't navigate the turn. The road was a little bit too slick or whatever, but it still happens. Now, when it comes to God, He knew it was going to happen in His sovereignty, and because of His knowledge, power, and presence, God could have done something. He could have done something. He could have prevented it, but He didn't, and the question is, why? There's not a good answer, at least not for me. We come up with stuff to try to make ourselves feel better or to make a little bit of sense, and maybe it does a little bit, but I'm not satisfied with any of that stuff. Something similar came up in the life of Jesus. Out of Luke 13. It says this. Now on the same occasion there were some present who reported him about the Galileans, whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifice. And to make a little bit of sense of that, some Galileans had come to the temple to worship God, and they had brought their sacrifices, and they were the ones whom Pilate sacrificed. He had them murdered, so their blood was mingled. Kind of a creative way to say they were murdered as they were worshiping God in the temple. And perhaps they had come to Jesus with the why question. Why in a place of worship, when we're doing exactly what we ought to be doing, did you allow this guy to have his men come and murder? I knew some of those people. They were good people. Here's how Jesus answered it. He said to them, do you suppose that these Galileans were greater sinners than all the other Galileans, because they suffered this fate? Why did they die and the others didn't? He says, no. Here, Jesus seems to not be very compassionate here. No, but I tell you, unless you repent, you're going to die like they died, or you're all going to perish, so you better repent. I'm going, how about some empathy here? But he says, no, that's not why they died. I'm not going to tell you why they died, but let me tell you something. Unless you repent, you're going to perish too. And Jesus doesn't stop there. See, this was intentional homicide. He doesn't stop with intentional homicide. Because could God have stopped it? We're all going, could have. Why didn't He? I don't know. Jesus doesn't tell us. Here, and so Jesus raises this next thing up. Or, here, let me continue here. Or do you suppose that those 18 on whom the tower in Siloam fell and killed them were worse culprits than all the other men who live in Jerusalem? Is that why it happened? He says, no, that's not why it happened. I'm not going to tell you why it happened, but that's not why it happened. But unless you repent, same thing's going to happen to you. And I'm going like, now Jesus, I know there's more to this. I think you should fill us in a little more. This doesn't help me much. I'm not going, oh, okay. There's not a finality here. See, when tragedies strike, accidents happen. When we are struck with a disease and there's not what I call a biblical healing, where your body is restored and you continue to live on this earth, that's a biblical healing. It's natural for people to start trying to make up other things as to why this happened. Thoughts creep in, well, maybe they deserved it. Or maybe it wasn't them, maybe it was their parents, or maybe it was their grandparents, or maybe somehow God's getting back. Maybe God is vindictive here. Again, looking for the cause and effect. Just here, four wrong conclusions when it comes to accidents and suffering. There's more than four, but this is just four basic wrong conclusions to make when it comes to accidents and suffering. Number one is suffering is proportional to sinfulness. There are a lot of good, fine, can I say holy people who suffer greatly or die young. And so it's not related to their or anyone else's sin. Or tragedy is a sure sign of God's judgment. Well, I'm not saying that sometimes it couldn't, but don't reach that conclusion. God must be mad, therefore. Or bad things only happen to bad people. You know better than that. If it was up to me, more bad things would happen to bad people and more good things would happen to good or God's people. But thank God it's not up to me. Or we have the right to make such judgments. No, we don't. No, we don't. Why do hurricanes come? Why some and not others? I really don't know. In addition, Jesus doesn't say that they were really special people and God wanted to do them in heaven. That's not true either. Or you hear this stuff sometimes, well, now they're angels. That's ridiculous. No human being, once they die, ever becomes an angel. Their soul may go up to heaven, but they do not become angelic beings. Don't put that out on Facebook and just don't buy into it. It's not true. Jesus doesn't even try to begin to answer most why questions. He just says, better watch out or you're going to perish too. That's what he says. And I go, well, all right. Guess I'll deal with that. Doesn't bring much comfort. Jesus often uses tragedy as an object lesson. I believe this morning, maybe not everyone, because some of you are still quite young, but I believe everyone here that's, and you don't have to be very old, but everyone who's at least 35 or 40, you carry grief around. I remember years and years ago, Dean. I knew Dean and the Beavers growing up, and your one boy got ill, Dwayne. And Dwayne, when I remember this about Dwayne Beaver. He was maybe 3 or 4 years older than me, but Dwayne always smiled at me. Like some of the older kids would make fun of you and, ignore you. Dwayne always smiled. Dwayne was always polite. It's like he was always laughing. And if I remember right, he was a left-handed first baseman. Is that right? I think he was a left. And he played baseball at Roanoke Little League. And the next year he was going to be 12, and normally you can play baseball in Little League at age 12. And Dwayne's not on the team. And I remember asking Dad. I go, Dad, what happened to Dwayne Beaver? what am I, 9 years old or something, 8 years old. And Dad just said, well, he's sick. So I'm just thinking, okay, he's got a cold, he's got a flu. He'll be playing here shortly. But he never played that year. He never played baseball again. And so I don't know if he got to be 13 or thereabouts, but Dwayne Beaver dies of leukemia. And I'm just a little guy. And Dad tells me what goes on, and I'm going, and I don't get it. Because in my world, old people die. But kids, we don't die. We have a long life. We have a lot of laughter. And I didn't get it then. And I'm not so sure I get it much more now. What I do know is this, and that is God has all knowledge and all power and all presence to prevent anything He chooses or to allow anything He chooses for any reason He chooses. And He's still a good God. And He asks that we would all trust in Him, even when it doesn't make sense, and even when it hurts so bad, we don't know if we can go on another day. Under the sovereign, watchful, powerful, all-knowing might and eye of God. Can we do that? Will you do that? Let me pray. Lord, thank you this morning. There's just so much we don't get. And it doesn't mean you're bad or mean. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean these things. Just because we don't get it and it hurts so bad, it throws our mind in a whirlwind. But we're still going to trust in. We're still going to walk with. We're not going to throw up our hands and say, well, if that's the way God's going to be, we're going to continue to trust in. Because you are a sovereign God. And we're not. You control all things. We control almost nothing. And that's the way it needs to be. So we come to you in humility, Lord. And although we don't understand things, we're thankful to a God like you anyway. And we're going to serve you and love you with all we have and all we are the rest of our lives. And that's our prayer here in Christ's name. Amen.